Picture this. You're overwhelmed, drowning in deadlines, personal pressures, the relentless noise of modern life. Then you read these words from Seneca: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Suddenly, the weight lifts. How can a sentence scribbled 2,000 years ago cut through the chaos of today with such precision? That's the power of Stoic letters, ancient wisdom that feels shockingly modern. These weren't just philosophers musing in marble halls. They were people like us, writing to friends about grief, anger, and fear, crafting a manual for emotional resilience that still works. Think about the last time stress hijacked your day, maybe a missed opportunity, a harsh comment, or a spiral of what-ifs. Now imagine having the tools to pause that reaction, to step back and ask, as Marcus Aurelius did, "What is this to me?" Stoicism doesn't teach suppression, it teaches mastery. The letters will reveal how to detach with clarity, rebuild resilience like a mental armor, and shift perspectives to see obstacles as fuel. This is emotional alchemy, turning leaden moments into golden growth. So why do these ancient texts still resonate? Because human nature hasn't changed. We still face betrayal, loss, and uncertainty. We still crave control in a chaotic world. The Stoics wrote about these struggles with raw honesty, offering not platitudes but practices. In this video, we'll unpack their timeless strategies: how to confront anxiety without crumbling, reframe setbacks as stepping stones, and cultivate a mind that remains steady when everything else shakes. This isn't just history, it's a survival kit for the soul, ready to dive in. Stoics believed mastery begins with recognizing where your power truly lies. Picture two people stuck in traffic, one fuming at the red lights, the other relaxed, listening to music. The difference isn't the traffic, it's their judgments about it. This is the core of Stoic philosophy. Emotions aren't forced on us by the world, but shaped by how we interpret events. Epictetus put it bluntly: it's not things that upset us, but our opinions about them. Imagine holding a glass of water. Is it half empty or half full? The glass hasn't changed, only your perception. That shift in focus is where emotional freedom starts. Consider a modern scenario. Your manager critiques your work. One person spirals into self-doubt, another sees it as fuel to improve. The feedback itself is neutral. It's the story you attach to it that determines whether it crushes or empowers you. Stoics called this the discipline of assent, a pausing before reacting to ask, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Think of it like a mental filter. When you catch yourself thinking, "This is a disaster," challenge it. Or is this just uncomfortable? That tiny gap between event and reaction is where mastery lies. Now reflect on your own life. Recall a recent moment when frustration or anxiety took over. Maybe a cancelled plan, a rude comment, or a missed deadline. Replay it, but this time ask, what judgment did I attach to this? Was it the event itself or my interpretation that caused the pain? This isn't about dismissing emotions, it's about recognizing their source. Because once you realize your judgments are the architects of your feelings, you gain something revolutionary: choice. The traffic jam doesn't control you. The criticism doesn't define you. You hold the reins not to change the world, but to change how you meet it. We've all been there, white-knuckling the steering wheel, muttering at the sea of brake lights ahead, as if our anger could magically clear the road. But here's the Stoic twist: that traffic jam isn't the problem. Your thought about the traffic is. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's the heart of Stoic perception. The same event can be agony or an opportunity. depending on the lens you choose. Take social media. Scrolling through curated highlight reels, it's easy to feel lacking, like everyone else is living a brighter, shinier life. But what if, instead of comparing, you saw those posts as reminders of possibilities? The Stoics called this turning obstacles into fuel. A missed promotion isn't just a setback, it's a nudge to refine your skills. A disagreement isn't just conflict, it's a chance to practice patience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Here's how to practice this today. Pick one frustration, a long line at the store, a delayed flight, a critical comment. Pause and ask, what story am I telling myself about this? Then flip it. That delay, maybe its gift of unexpected time to breathe. That criticism, a free lesson in someone else's perspective. The event hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has. That's the alchemy of perception, transforming leaden moments into something lighter, even useful. So next time life feels like it's squeezing you, remember, the squeeze isn't the issue, it's how you hold it. The Stoics didn't just endure hardship, they used it. And that's a superpower anyone can cultivate. What if expecting the worst could actually make you calmer? Sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Yet this was Seneca's secret weapon against life's uncertainties, a practice called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. Imagine walking into a job interview already picturing rejection. Instead of filling you with dread, this mental rehearsal strips the worst-case scenario of its power. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." It's not pessimism, it's preparation. By visualizing challenges in advance, you inoculate your mind against panic when they arrive. Think of it like a fire drill. No one hopes for a fire, but practicing the escape route means you won't freeze in chaos. The Stoics applied this to everything, from public humiliation to financial loss. Consider how different this is from modern avoidance tactics. Today, we binge watch, scroll, or numb ourselves to escape discomfort. But Seneca would argue, run toward what scares you, in your mind first. Picture losing that promotion, sit with the sting, then ask, could I rebuild? You'll often find the answer is yes. That realization doesn't just soften the blow, it reveals your own resilience. Here's the twist, ancient and modern anxieties aren't so different. The Romans feared plagues and political turmoil. We stress over markets and misinformation. But the human response remains the same, we dread the unknown. Premeditatio malorum flips that script. A struggling entrepreneur might visualize bankruptcy, not to surrender, but to spot hidden opportunities. What if I lose funding becomes, then I'll bootstrap. The exercise doesn't summon disaster, it defangs it. Try this today. Pick an upcoming worry, a difficult conversation, a medical test, a project deadline. Close your eyes and vividly imagine the worst outcome. Feel it fully. Now ask, what would I do next? You might notice your pulse steadying. That's the Stoic shift. When you stop fearing the fall, you start seeing the net. And sometimes the net is you. Imagine being ripped from your home, stripped of status, and exiled to a rocky island, all for speaking your mind. That was the fate of Musonius Rufus, a Stoic teacher in ancient Rome. Yet when his students wept for him, he simply said, "Why mourn? This is where philosophy is tested." He didn't just endure his exile, he thrived in it, turning a prison into a classroom. That's amor fati, the radical act of loving fate, even when it tastes bitter. Epictetus, born a slave, framed it plainly. Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens the way it happens. Then you will be happy. Now fast forward to today. Picture losing a job you loved or hearing a diagnosis that changes everything. The instinct is to rage against the injustice. Why me? But Amor Fati whispers a different question. What if this is exactly what I need to grow? It's not about pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about refusing to let pain define you. When a musician loses hearing, like Beethoven, they might compose masterpieces by feeling vibrations. When an athlete loses a leg, they might discover adaptive sports. The twist: hardship often forges the very tools we'll need next. Here's how to practice this. Grab a journal and write about a recent setback, a rejection, a failure, a loss. Now reframe it. What did this teach me? How did it make me stronger? Maybe that job loss pushed you toward a passion project. Maybe that illness deepened your empathy. Gratitude for difficulty feels unnatural at first, like lifting weights with a weak muscle. But each time you ask, what's the gift here, you train your mind to see obstacles as collaborators. So next time life hands you lemons, don't just make lemonade, ask why lemons might be the perfect ingredient. The Stoics knew fate doesn't ask permission. But you get to choose whether to fight it or fall in love with its messy, unexpected wisdom. Consider Seneca's letters not as formal philosophy, but as raw, intimate conversations with himself. Each one reads like a diary entry, peeling back layers of doubt, anger, and hope. That's the secret. Stoic letters weren't just advice for others. They were mirrors held up to the writer's own soul. When Seneca wrote to Lucilius, he was really wrestling with his fears, refining his values, and untangling his emotions through ink. Sound familiar? It's the same reason millions of us journal today. The format has changed: quills to keyboards, parchment to apps, but the human need to process life through writing hasn't. Take Marcus Aurelius. His Meditations was never meant for publication. Those pages were private, a nightly ritual where the most powerful man in Rome confronted his flaws and reaffirmed his principles. Imagine the emperor, exhausted after ruling an empire, still making time to ask, did I act with integrity today? Where did I let externals shake me? That's Stoic journaling in action, not just recording events, but dissecting their meaning. Modern research backs this up. Writing about emotions reduces stress, clarifies thinking, and even strengthens immunity. The Stoics didn't have fMRI scans, but they knew something we're now proving scientifically. Words can transform chaos into order. So how do you journal like a Stoic? Start with their signature questions. Tonight, before bed, try these prompts. What disturbed my peace today, and was it within my control? Stoics called this the Dichotomy of Control, a filter for separating what's worth your energy from what isn't. Or borrow Marcus's approach. What virtue did I practice or neglect? Maybe you paused before reacting in traffic, patience, or bit back a harsh comment, temperance. Even small wins count. Another powerful one. How could today's obstacle have been a gift? That delayed flight isn't just frustration, it's forced downtime to read or reflect. The magic happens in the consistency. Seneca wrote daily, not when inspiration struck. Your journal doesn't need eloquence, it needs honesty. Think of it as a mental gym where you strengthen discernment and resilience, rep by rep. Over time, you'll spot patterns, triggers you can disarm, strength you can lean into. And here's the beautiful paradox. By examining your days so closely, you start living them more fully. Tonight, grab any notebook, write for 5 minutes, not to perform but to listen, to the quiet voice beneath the noise that knows what you control, what you value, and where your power truly lies. That's the legacy of Stoic letters, not just words on a page, but a conversation across centuries, inviting you to meet yourself on the page. Picture a ship cutting through stormy seas. The captain can't control the waves or the wind, but they can adjust the sails, steer the rudder, and choose their course. That's the essence of Epictetus's Dichotomy of Control. Some things are up to us, like our effort and attitude, while others, the weather, other people's opinions, traffic jams, are not. He wrote, "Some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion. Outside our power are our body, property, reputation, office." The Stoic secret: pour your energy into the first list and let go of the second. Now apply this to modern life. You can't control political headlines, but you can choose how deeply you engage with them. You can't force a colleague to like you, but you can act with integrity. The moment you stop trying to command the waves, other people's choices, societal noise, even your own past mistakes, you reclaim an astonishing amount of mental real estate. Think of the last hour you spent scrolling through divisive comments online. What changed? Probably nothing except your peace of mind. That's the cost of misplacing your focus. Here's the twist: surrendering control isn't passivity, it's precision. A surgeon doesn't waste energy wishing their patient had healthier habits. They focus on the incision in front of them. Similarly, when you stop obsessing over outcomes, whether a date goes well, a client says yes, or the scale moves, and instead commit fully to showing up as your best self, frustration loses its grip. The artist can't force applause, but they can pour everything into their craft. That shift from external validation to internal standards is liberation. So try this today. Make 2 lists. On one side, write what's truly in your power, your preparation, your kindness, your boundaries. On the other, what isn't: delays, other people's moods, the stock market. Then when anxiety creeps in, ask, which list does this belong to? If it's the second, imagine placing it gently on a passing cloud. You'll find, as Epictetus promised, that most suffering comes from confusing the two. The waves will keep coming, but you get to decide whether to fight them or adjust your sails. Did you know the average person checks their phone 96 times a day? That's once every 10 minutes in waking hours, a constant splintering of attention that leaves us emotionally drained. Seneca saw this coming 2,000 years ago when he wrote on the shortness of life, warning that we squander our days, distracted while life hurries on. The irony: we're drowning in information yet starved for presence. But here's where Stoicism and modern mindfulness collide. Both teach that true peace isn't found in controlling the chaos around us, but in mastering the chaos within. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly: concentrate every minute on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. That's not just productivity advice, it's a survival tactic for the soul. The Stoics didn't have smartphones, but they battled distractions too. Gossip in the forum, political dramas, the pull of luxury. Their solution: a relentless focus on the now. Picture Seneca pausing mid-letter to watch sunlight filter through his window, or Epictetus reminding students that while they can't choose external events, they can choose where to direct their gaze. This wasn't passive acceptance, it was active attention, a deliberate anchoring in the present. Try this tech detox challenge. For 1 meal today, leave your phone in another room. Taste each bite, notice the weight of your fork, the colors on your plate. When your mind drifts to unanswered emails, gently guide it back, just as Marcus Aurelius trained himself to return to his breath when stress gripped him. This practice isn't about perfection, it's about noticing when you've wandered and choosing to come home to the moment. The Stoics called this prosoph, vigilant awareness. Modern science calls it metacognition, the ability to observe your own thoughts without being hijacked by them. Now, here's your invitation. Pick one routine moment today: brushing your teeth, waiting for coffee to brew, walking to your car, and experience it fully. Feel the bristles against your gums, inhale the steam rising from the cup, notice the rhythm of your footsteps. These tiny acts of attention are revolutions against distraction's tyranny. Because as Seneca knew, life isn't short, we just make it feel that way by scattering our focus. The present moment isn't a stepping stone to somewhere else. It's the only place where life actually happens. Remember that video of a passenger screaming at a flight attendant over a delayed bag? 2 million views in an hour, proof that outrage still sells. But here's what Seneca would say about that viral moment. Anger is a brief madness. 2,000 years later, we're still losing ourselves in that same temporary insanity, mistaking fury for power. In On Anger, Seneca dissects rage with the precision of a surgeon. It doesn't punish others, it punishes us, corroding judgment and leaving us weaker than before the storm. Modern science backs him up. When we're angry, our prefrontal cortex, the rational decision maker, goes offline, hijacked by the amygdala's primal scream. The Stoic antidote: insert a pause, not suppression but space. Picture this: your coworker takes credit for your idea in a meeting, your pulse spikes. Here's where Seneca's tool kicks in: delay reaction by counting to 10. Not to dismiss the injustice, but to ask, will my anger improve this, or just become another problem to clean up? That gap between trigger and response is where freedom lives. Try this experiment today. Go 24 hours without complaining. Not even a sigh at traffic or a muttered insult at your phone's slow loading time. Why? Because complaining trains the brain to scan for annoyances, like tuning a radio to static. Seneca warned that anger thrives on narration, the stories we tell ourselves about why we should be furious. Break that script and you break its power. Now reflect. What makes your temperature rise? Maybe it's being cut off in traffic or feeling unheard in relationships. Trace it back. Is it the event itself or the story you're layering onto it? They disrespected me. This always happens. Those interpretations are optional. The Stoics taught that anger is often a mask for vulnerability, a way to avoid admitting we feel hurt or powerless. Peel back the mask and you'll find choices you couldn't see while fists were clenched. Here's the ultimate question: is your rage worth the peace it costs? Every minute spent furious at politics, petty slights, or first world problems is a minute stolen from joy, creativity, or connection. Seneca's verdict: no plague has cost the human race more. But the cure isn't complex. It starts with recognizing anger as a visitor, not a resident, and choosing whether to serve it tea or show it the door. Have you ever stood at the edge of grief, wondering if the weight would ever lift? Seneca's letter to Marcia, a mother mourning her son for 3 years, doesn't dismiss her pain, it meets her there. Tears are natural, he writes, but so is healing. The Stoics saw sorrow as a river. We must let it flow, but we need not drown in it. What makes their approach so revolutionary isn't the suppression of emotion, but the refusal to let it become a permanent residence. Consider how we grieve today. Social media memorials, candlelit vigils, therapy sessions. Our rituals aren't so different from the Romans who wore dark robes or saved locks of hair from the departed. Yet somewhere along the way we've twisted never forget into never move forward. Seneca's advice to Marcia cuts through that. You have buried your son, do not bury yourself with him. This wasn't cruelty, it was compassion disguised as truth. Stoics believed honoring the dead meant living well, not lingering in perpetual anguish. Marcus Aurelius, who buried 8 children, wrote, "The cucumber is bitter. Throw it away, there are brambles in the path, step aside. Don't ask, why do these things exist?" His point: pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. When a storm uproots a tree, it doesn't curse the sky. It adapts, grows new roots, or becomes shelter for something else. That's the Stoic view of grief, an event that changes us but need not break us. Here's an exercise straight from their scrolls. Take a blank page and write a letter to someone you've lost, not with sorrow, but with gratitude. Tell them what they taught you, how they shaped you, where you see their influence in your days. Seneca did this with his friend Lucilius. turning loss into a dialogue that transcended death. Modern psychology confirms the power of this practice. Expressive writing reduces cortisol levels, organizes chaotic emotions, and creates narrative coherence. The ancients didn't have fMRI machines, but they knew words could suture wounds. Tonight, light a candle, not as a vigil, but as a beacon for the love that remains, for the life still yours to live. The Stoics would remind you, tears water the soul, but they mustn't flood it. Grief isn't the enemy of love, it's its echo, and echoes, however beautiful, were never meant to drown out the present moment's song. Think about your last 10 text messages. How many were truly meaningful, the kind that linger in your mind or strengthen a bond? In our hyper-connected world, we've traded depth for convenience, substituting heart-to-heart conversations for heart emojis and quick reactions. Now read Seneca's letters to Lucilius. These weren't just notes, they were lifelines, carefully crafted dialogues where philosophy met friendship. Seneca wrote, "I prefer you to be in want of a good man to receive your letters than to have one ready to receive them." Translation: quality over quantity, even in ancient Rome's version of a contact list. Stoic friendship wasn't about networking or superficial validation. It was a sacred pact to sharpen each other like iron against iron. Picture this: when Lucilius struggled with public criticism, Seneca didn't offer hollow reassurance. He challenged him. Why do you care about the applause of those you wouldn't take advice from? That's the Stoic edge, friends who tell you hard truths with love, not just what you want to hear. Epictetus took it further. Tell me who you spend time with, and I'll tell you who you are. He warned that companions are like mental architects. They shape your thoughts whether you realize it or not. Surround yourself with complainers, and soon you'll see problems everywhere. Choose friends who focus on solutions, and you'll start spotting opportunities. Here's the modern twist. We curate Instagram feeds more carefully than our inner circles. But the Stoics would ask, who makes you braver? Who calls out your excuses? Who sits with you in silence when words aren't enough? These are the bonds that fortify souls. Today, try an experiment. Instead of sending a meme or a "Hey, what's up?" text, write one sentence to someone who elevates you. "Your resilience last week inspired me." Or borrow Seneca's habit. Share a quote that made you think of them, then ask for their take. That's how letters crossed centuries, not as small talk, but as soul food. So tonight, ask yourself, who in your life embodies that rare blend of honesty and warmth? Who makes you want to rise to your best self? Reach out, not to fill silence, but to build something timeless. Because as the Stoics knew, the right words to the right person can be the difference between feeling adrift and coming home to yourself. Picture an Olympic sprinter in the starting blocks. The gun fires, muscles tense, heart pounds. Every ounce of training pours into those 10 explosive seconds. But here's the paradox. The athletes who perform best aren't thinking about medals or records in that moment. Their focus is razor sharp on form, breath, rhythm, the things within their control. That's Stoic indifference in action, pouring everything into the effort while releasing death grips on the outcome. Epictetus, who trained athletes in his philosophy school, put it bluntly, "In the gymnasium, it's not the victory that's beautiful, it's the striving." Now zoom out to everyday life. That job interview where you rehearsed answers until dawn, the art portfolio you poured your soul into, the first date where you picked every word carefully. What happened when you walked away? If your mood soared or cratered based on the result, you felt the cost of over-attachment. Modern performance culture screams the opposite message. Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. But Seneca saw the trap 2,000 years ago. You're terrified of suffering what you don't deserve. You deserve to fear it if you think you don't deserve it. Translation: when we stake our worth on uncontrollable outcomes, we hand our peace to the universe like a hostage. Consider two salespeople. One obsesses over quarterly rankings, refreshing the leaderboard hourly. The other focuses purely on calls made, pitches refined, value delivered. At month's end, who sleeps better regardless of who lands on top? This is the Stoic shift, treating results like weather patterns. You don't rage at rain for ruining your picnic. You check the forecast and pack an umbrella. Similarly, the artist can't control gallery sales, but they can show up daily to hone their craft. Marcus Aurelius framed it as gardening. The cucumber is bitter, throw it out. Too many brambles in the path, go around. That's all you need to know. Here's the modern twist. We've built entire industries around outcome addiction, like dictating self-worth, algorithms rewarding outrage, GPAs defining potential. But what if you measured success by a different metric? Not, did I get the promotion? But, did I grow into someone worthy of it? Not, did they like me? But, was I authentically myself? This isn't about lowering standards, it's about raising agency. The writer who submits manuscripts knowing most will reject still wins, because their victory was in the daily discipline of showing up. Try this reframe today. Recall a moment when you fixated on a result, a college acceptance, a partner's response, a number on a scale. Now ask, what parts of that were truly mine to control? You'll often find the answer splits cleanly. Your preparation, your honesty, your courage, those belong to you. The rest, that's life's domain. The Stoics didn't teach apathy, they taught focus. Like an archer who can perfect their aim but not control the wind, your job isn't to guarantee bullseyes, it's to love the art of shooting. Imagine floating 200 miles above Earth, watching storms swirl silently over continents, city lights flickering like distant fireflies. Astronauts call it the overview effect, a shift in perspective so profound it rewires their sense of what matters. Borders vanish, grudges seem absurd. That urgent email, a speck in the cosmic silence. Marcus Aurelius chased this same clarity from the ground, writing, "Pass through this tiny fragment of time in harmony with nature, and come to your final resting place gracefully, just as a ripe olive falls, praising the earth that bore it." His antidote to daily drama wasn't denial, it was zooming out until pettiness shrank to its true size. Consider how differently we'd approach life if we wore an imaginary astronaut's helmet. That coworker who took credit for your idea, from lunar distance, their insecurity becomes almost pitiable. The traffic jam that ruined your morning. A single stalled thread in the planet's vast tapestry. This isn't about dismissing real pain, it's about recognizing how much of our suffering comes from magnifying molehills into mountains. Aurelius practiced this daily. Keep before your eyes the whole of time and the whole of existence. When he faced betrayal or plague, he'd imagine his troubles as grains of sand on history's endless shore. Here's how to borrow that lens today. Step outside tonight and look up. Not casually, really look. Those stars, some burned out millennia ago, their light just now reaching you. Your ancestors stood under these same constellations, fretting over their own fleeting worries. Now ask, what remains of their crises? The Stoic exercise here isn't nihilism, it's liberation. When you grasp how small your moment is, you stop wasting it on what won't ripple beyond next week. Try this journal prompt. What feels monumental now but won't matter in 5 years? Maybe it's a missed sale, a social media slight, or a scratch on your car. Write it down, then imagine your future self looking back. Chances are, they'll marvel at how much energy you poured into what faded like morning mist. The key isn't to stop caring, it's to care wisely. Nature is the ultimate Stoic teacher. Walk through old growth trees whose roots predate empires. Watch waves erase footprints without hesitation. These aren't metaphors but mirrors showing the rhythm of letting go. Aurelius wrote his meditations on battlefields surrounded by chaos, yet he kept returning to one truth: you are a little soul carrying around a corpse. Stark, yes, but also strangely comforting, a reminder that whatever weighs you down today, the universe will one day recycle into stardust. So next time stress tightens your chest, picture the Earth from space. That meeting, that mistake, that criticism, how much space does it truly occupy in the grand story? The view from above doesn't make life insignificant, it makes our choices more sacred. Because in the end, we aren't measured by what we fretted over, but by what we loved and built amid the fleeting storm. Ever notice how the angriest person in traffic always looks like they're about to pop a blood vessel? Seneca would have loved that spectacle, not to mock, but to marvel at how seriously we take our own inconveniences. The Stoics, often painted as stone-faced ascetics, were actually masters of wit. In one letter, Seneca jokes about a man who threw himself off a roof because his shoes were too tight, a darkly comic reminder that we often magnify trivial discomforts into catastrophes. This wasn't cruelty, it was medicine disguised as laughter. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic who turned exile into a punchline, taught that joy thrives in simplicity. Why resent sleeping on hard ground, he'd say, when you'll wake up with the best posture of your life. His humor wasn't escapism, it was a crowbar prying perspective loose. Modern psychology confirms this. Laughter literally reduces cortisol, tricking the brain into recalibrating threats. The Stoics didn't just endure hardship, they mocked its pretensions. Imagine a Roman senator chuckling as his prized vase shattered. Well, there's one less thing to dust. Here's your challenge. Recall today's most grating annoyance: a spilled coffee, a delayed train, a printer jam. Now reframe it as if it's a sitcom subplot. Narrate it in your head with a laugh track. That meeting where your tech failed. Cue the slapstick music. The absurdity isn't in the event. It's in our royal expectations that life should bow to our plans. As Seneca wrote, we are ridiculous animals, weeping because we don't get the seat we wanted at the theater, while ignoring the play entirely. Tonight, share your annoyance reframe with a friend. Turn it into a competition. Who can spin the pettiest frustration into the best punchline? Because sometimes the most stoic response isn't a solemn mantra. It's a snort of laughter at the cosmic joke we're all starring in. Scroll through any social media feed, and you'll find a graveyard of deleted posts, knee-jerk reactions fired off in anger, only to be regretted hours later. The Stoics would recognize this instantly. It's the modern version of shouting in the Roman Forum without first consulting reason. Seneca warned, speech is the index of the mind, and nowhere is that more visible than in our digital footprints. Every tweet, email, or text is a tiny letter to the world, revealing whether we're ruled by impulse or intention. Consider the last time you drafted a furious reply to a comment or email. Your fingers flew across the keyboard, heart pounding, convinced this was the moment to set the record straight. Now imagine inserting a Stoic pause, not to suppress the emotion, but to ask Epictetus's question: will this improve the situation or just my ego? The ancient practice of writing unsent letters takes on new urgency in the age of send now, think never. Try this. Next time outrage tempts you to post, write the message in full. Then walk away for 24 hours. When you return, you'll often find the heat has cooled, leaving only the essence of what truly needed saying. There's a reason Marcus Aurelius kept his personal journal private. His meditations weren't performative, they were raw rehearsals for better thinking. Apply that to your next work email. Before hitting send, read it aloud as if you were the recipient. Does it carry the weight of wisdom or the sting of reactivity? digital stoicism isn't about sanitizing emotion, it's about aligning communication with your highest principles. A text to a friend in distress can be a lifeline. A passive-aggressive team chat message becomes a splinter in everyone's focus. Here's a challenge. For 1 week, treat every digital interaction as if it were a physical letter, something you'd seal with wax and hand deliver. Notice how this slows the rush to react, how it filters trivial grievances from meaningful dialogue. Epictetus observed, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak." In a world of infinite broadcasting, that ratio feels revolutionary. Your keyboard isn't just a tool, it's a training ground for discernment. So tonight, open your drafts folder. Write that scathing review, that defensive reply, that emotional confession, then close it unsent. There's power in the act of expression itself, separate from the need for an audience. Sometimes the wisest message is the one that never leaves your screen, teaching you more about restraint than any viral post ever could. Who is your moral compass? The person whose choices, even in silence, whisper to you, "This is how to live." The Stoics didn't just ponder this question. They built an entire practice around it, studying historical figures like Cato the Younger as living blueprints for virtue. When Seneca described Cato, he didn't just list his accomplishments, he painted a portrait of a man who walked through Rome as if it were Plato's republic, embodying integrity so fiercely that even his political enemies respected him. This wasn't blind hero worship, it was strategic emulation. The Stoics called it prosoch, attentiveness to the qualities in others that reveal our own potential. Imagine scrolling through history like a menu of moral options. Instead of envying Alexander the Great's conquests, the Stoics admired his discipline. Rather than fixating on Socrates' fame, they focused on his courage in the face of unjust death. Epictetus put it plainly, "If you want to improve, be content to appear clueless in some matters." That's the humility of a lifelong student, recognizing that every person we meet, from a grocery clerk's patience to a colleague's resilience, holds a lesson if we're willing to see it. Modern psychology confirms this ancient hack. Mirror neurons fire whether we're performing an action or watching someone else do it, meaning our brains literally rehearse the behaviors we observe. The Stoics leveraged this instinctively. When Marcus Aurelius woke each morning, he didn't just list his tasks. He asked, what would Zeno do here? How would Antoninus handle this? He populated his mental environment with ethical mentors, turning abstract virtues into tangible examples. Your challenge: build your own pantheon. Start with 3 people, historical, contemporary, or even fictional, whose traits resonate with you. Maybe it's Mandela's forgiveness, your grandmother's grit, or a fictional character's creativity. Now dig deeper. What specific choices reveal these qualities? Cato didn't just stand for principles. He publicly returned a bribe to Julius Caesar with a note, "I'd rather owe you money than my integrity." That's actionable inspiration. For modern equivalents, try biographies like The Obstacle, Is the Way on Marcus Aurelius, or podcasts like The Daily Stoic that dissect historical figures through a Stoic lens. But don't stop at consumption, craft a ritual. Keep a notebook of virtue sightings, jotting down when someone's patience or courage impresses you. Over time, you'll notice patterns. The traits you admire most are often the ones your soul is urging you to cultivate. Tonight, try this. Light a candle and imagine your role models sitting around you. Ask them silently, "How would you handle my current struggle?" Their answers might surprise you, not because they speak, but because you already know. As Seneca wrote, "Nature has given us the seeds of knowledge, we just forget to water them." Your moral compass isn't out there, it's within. But sometimes it takes studying others' light to remember how to switch on your own. You wake up to a perfectly climate-controlled room, tap your phone for breakfast delivery, and commute in a heated seat, never too hot, never too cold, never uncomfortable. Yet something feels off. Seneca noticed this paradox 2,000 years ago. The more cushion we build between ourselves and the world, the more brittle we become. His solution of voluntary discomfort, not self-punishment, but training like a runner choosing hills to strengthen their legs. He wrote, "Set aside certain days to be content with the poorest fare, with coarse dress, asking yourself, is this what I used to dread? Take cold showers, the modern Stoic's favorite drill." That first icy blast triggers panic, but then something shifts. Your breath steadies. You realize, I can endure this. Epictetus, who trained students in resilience exercises, called this the discipline of assent, learning to separate raw sensation from mental drama. The water isn't the enemy, your protest against it is. Modern science backs this. Deliberate cold exposure boosts dopamine and reduces inflammation. But the Stoics saw deeper value. It's a daily reminder that comfort is a choice, not a mandate. We're living through a comfort crisis. Elevators replace stairs, streaming numbs boredom, constant snacks erase hunger cues. Convenience has atrophied our tolerance for even minor inconvenience, hence the outrage over delayed Wi-Fi or lukewarm coffee. Seneca would chuckle at our fragility. How long will you keep taxing fortune for guarantees? She gives no bonds. His point, life will bring discomfort, better to meet it prepared than blindsided. Try this challenge today. Skip one meal, not to starve yourself, but to rediscover the difference between hunger and habit. Notice the gnawing sensation, then the clarity that often follows. Or leave your jacket at home on a chilly walk. These small acts rebuild what comfort culture has dismantled, the knowledge that you're tougher than your impulses. As you sip your next coffee, ask, what ease have I mistaken for necessity? That air conditioning, those noise-canceling headphones, the instant grocery delivery, how would you fare without them? Voluntary discomfort isn't about rejecting modernity's gifts. It's about retaining the power to walk away from them. Because resilience isn't found in avoiding storms, but in remembering you've weathered them before. Did you know nearly 1 in 3 adults lie awake at night, their minds racing through tomorrow's to-do lists and yesterday's regrets? The ancient Stoics faced their own version of sleep anxiety, no smartphones or caffeine, but the same whirlpool of worries. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire by day, turned his nights into a classroom for the soul. His private journal, Meditations, opens a window into his pre-sleep ritual, not counting sheep but counting lessons. When the light is dim and the household quiet, he wrote, ask yourself, where did I stray from wisdom today? Where did I meet it? Seneca took this further with his nightly review, a practice modern psychologists now call the examined day. Picture him unrolling a scroll by lamplight, replaying conversations like film reels. Did I speak with patience or pride? Did I listen or just wait to talk? His advice cuts through centuries. The spirit should be called to account daily. This is what sleep was made for, not just resting the body, but repairing the mind. Here's how to adapt their ritual tonight. Grab any notebook, no fancy journal required. Start with 2 simple prompts. What stole my peace today and what strengthened it? Maybe frustration flared in a meeting, but later, a walk under the trees reset your mood. The goal isn't self-judgment, it's pattern recognition. Like Marcus reviewing military campaigns, you're mapping the terrain of your emotions to navigate better tomorrow. Now add Seneca's twist. Extract 1 concrete lesson. Not, I should be calmer, but next time my colleague interrupts, I'll pause for 3 breaths before responding. Specificity turns reflection into rewiring. Close by jotting 1 thing you're grateful for, not just family, but the way my daughter laughed at breakfast. Gratitude, the Stoics knew, is the sand that smooths the edges of a rough day. Tonight, as you turn off the lights, resist the urge to reach for your phone. Instead, let the darkness become your confessional. Ask, as Marcus did, if this were my last night, would I be at peace with how I live today? The answer isn't meant to haunt you. It's meant to wake you up to tomorrow's possibilities. Because the best sleep isn't just about rest. It's about returning to the world each morning with clearer eyes and a lighter heart. Remember that influencer who lost brand deals overnight after an offhand joke misfired. The internet erupted, thousands dissecting every syllable, demanding apologies, declaring moral verdicts in all caps. Seneca would have watched this digital frenzy with quiet amusement. Why are you angry that the world acts like the world? He wrote to a friend devastated by slander. Stoics didn't just tolerate criticism, they welcomed it as training fuel. When a Roman senator mocked Seneca's writing style, he didn't fire back with a clever insult. He sent the critic a thank you note. You've shown me where to improve. Marcus Aurelius faced far worse than cancel culture. Conspirators in his own court spread vile rumors that he poisoned his co-emperor, that he slept with gladiators. His response, journal entries, not tirades. When men injure you, he wrote, ask yourself, what good or harm did they intend? Then you'll feel neither anger nor surprise. That's Stoic grace, recognizing that most attacks say more about the attacker's inner turmoil than your worth. Imagine scrolling through hate comments with that mindset. Not how dare they, but what wound is this really about? Here's how to practice this today. Next time you receive unfair feedback, whether from a boss, a stranger online, or your own inner critic, role-play this 3-step response. First, pause long enough to feel your pulse slow. Second, ask, is there 1% truth here worth mining? Even exaggerated criticism often contains a speck of useful data. Third, channel Seneca. Thank you for noticing, not groveling but disarming, because nothing deflates malice like refusing to play the game. Now, think back to a critique that kept you awake. Maybe a professor's harsh grading note, a relative's jab about your career, or a social media pile-on. Revisit it with Stoic eyes. Was the critic speaking from expertise or insecurity? Did their words hold gems wrapped in thorns? The goal isn't to dismiss all feedback, it's to sift it without self-betrayal. As Epictetus put it, if someone told you your body was ugly, you wouldn't hand it over to them. Why hand over your mind? Cancel culture thrives on our addiction to external validation. The Stoic antidote: build an inner citadel so unshakable that no amount of boos or cheers can sway your self-worth. That influencer's real mistake wasn't the joke. It was forgetting that public opinion is as reliable as weather. Today's outrage storm is tomorrow's forgotten trend. But integrity, that's climate, not weather, and it's yours to cultivate in any season. That moment at checkout when your finger hovers over place order, cart full of things you didn't plan to buy, heart racing with retail therapy's fleeting high. Seneca saw this coming. His advice: delay is the antidote to anger and to impulse. Whether it's a shopping spree or a heated text, the Stoic pause works the same way. Insert space between trigger and action, and you'll find most temptations lose their grip. Picture two friends arguing over politics. One fires back instantly, escalating the tension. The other takes a breath and says, "Let me think on that." That gap, what Stoics called prosoch, is where wisdom lives. Seneca practiced this through morning and evening journaling, weighing decisions like a merchant counting coins. His method was simple but profound. Draw 2 columns. On one side, list the immediate gratification, the rush of buying those shoes or winning the argument. On the other, the long-term cost: clutter, debt, fractured relationships. The act of writing slows the mind enough to see clearly. Fast forward to modern haste. Email drafts written in fury, social media rants posted at midnight, job resignations shouted in frustration. The Stoic fix: borrow a page from Roman scrolls, impose a 24-hour rule on any significant decision. When emotion surges, tell yourself, if this still feels right tomorrow, I'll act. Marcus Aurelius modeled this in his leadership, sleeping on battle strategies rather than reacting to every provocation. The irony: most impulses fade by sunrise. Try this today. Grab a notebook and recreate Seneca's columns for one pending choice, maybe a career move, a financial splurge, or a difficult conversation. Under pro, you might write, it'll feel satisfying in the moment. Under con, ask, will this align with the person I'm trying to become? The exercise isn't about paralysis, it's about aligning actions with values. As Epictetus noted, no great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit. So tonight, before reacting, ask, what if I gifted myself a day's distance? The pause itself is power, the space where impulse matures into intention. And in that space, you'll often find the best version of yourself waiting to take the reins. The average American home contains over 300,000 items, yet we still spend 1 in every 10 retail dollars on storage units to hold the overflow. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, saw this paradox coming 2,000 years ago. It is not the man who has too little, he wrote, but the man who craves more who is poor. Here's the Stoic twist: material detachment isn't about poverty, it's about redefining what enough truly means. While modern ads scream that happiness lives in the next purchase, the Stoics measured wealth in freedom: freedom from debt, from clutter, from the exhausting chase for more. Epictetus, born into slavery, framed it starkly. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Picture two neighbors, one working overtime to pay for a luxury car they barely drive, the other biking to work debt-free with hours each evening for family and hobbies. The difference isn't their bank balances, it's their relationship to wanting. Stoics called this autarkeia, the art of finding sufficiency within. When Seneca filled his villa with priceless art, he wasn't hypocritical, he was making a distinction: own things without letting them own you. Modern consumerism thrives on manufactured discontent. Your phone's cracked screen worked fine until you saw the shiny new model. The Stoic antidote: a voluntary reset. Try this. Open your closet and pull out everything you haven't worn in a year. Notice the mental resistance: but what if I need it? That's not your voice, it's the ghost of advertising past. Epictetus would say, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It's won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Every unworn jacket, every unused gadget is a tiny anchor dragging on your liberty. Here's a challenge: for 1 month, freeze non-essential spending. No new clothes, no impulse Amazon orders, no upgrades for things that still function. Carry a notebook and jot down every "I want" that arises. You'll discover 2 things. First, how many desires vanish within days. Second, how many were never yours to begin with. Like Seneca tracking his daily expenses, you're not budgeting money, you're auditing attention. Now walk through your home and ask of each possession, does this serve me or do I serve it? That gym equipment gathering dust, it whispers guilt every time you pass it. The fancy dinnerware you're saving for special occasions, it's turning ordinary meals into missed celebrations. The Stoics didn't advocate austerity, they practiced intentionality. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire, slept on a military cot not to punish himself, but to remember comfort shouldn't become necessity. Tonight, try this ritual. Empty your pockets or bag. Lay out your phone, wallet, keys. Really look at them. These few items likely enable 90% of your daily life. That's the Stoic enough principle in action, not deprivation, but distillation. Because when you subtract the excess, what remains isn't just simplicity. It's space for breath, for thought, for the uncluttered joy of being alive. There you sit, trapped in a sea of brake lights, watching the clock tick toward your next meeting. Your fingers drum the steering wheel, your breath grows shallow, every second feels stolen from you. Now picture Marcus Aurelius on the front lines of battle, waiting for dawn in freezing mud, writing in his journal. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. His words reveal the Stoic secret. Patience isn't about gritting your teeth until life moves faster. It's about transforming the wait itself into something meaningful. Consider how differently we approach delays today. A stalled subway train sparks outrage. A slow cashier triggers eye rolls. Buffering videos make us abandon entire shows. Seneca saw this tension 2,000 years ago when he wrote, "Time discovers truth." He wasn't just philosophizing, he was pointing to a universal law. Rushing won't make the traffic clear or the queue shorten, but how you meet that unmoving moment, that's where your power lies. This is patience redefined, not passive resignation, but active acceptance. Like a gardener who knows seeds grow at their own pace, the Stoics taught that some forces, time, nature, other people's choices, operate on schedules beyond our control. The frustration comes from railing against that truth. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet his meditations return again and again to the humility of waiting for allies to arrive, for wounds to heal, for understanding to dawn. His endurance wasn't weakness, it was strategic energy conservation. Here's how to practice this today. At your next meal, put down your fork between bites. Not as a diet trick, but as a sensory drill. Notice the tang of citrus, the crunch of greens, the warmth of broth. When your hand instinctively reaches for the next bite too soon, pause. That space between desire and action, that's where patience lives. Seneca called eating slowly a lesson in mortality, a reminder that savoring requires slowing. Now ask yourself, where else does your life rush on autopilot? The reflexive phone grab during elevator rides, the skipped breaths between tasks. These micro moments of impatience train your brain to treat life as an emergency. The Stoic alternative: find one daily delay, a red light, a grocery line, a software update, and reframe it as reclaimed time. 10 seconds to stretch your neck. 20 to replay a happy memory. 60 to plan a kind gesture. The queue isn't the enemy. The traffic jam isn't the thief. The real cost is the mental energy spent resenting what you can't change. As Marcus wrote while camped on the frozen Danube, the universe is transformation, life is opinion. That bumper-to-bumper grind could be a prison or a podcast university. The choice isn't in your circumstances, it's in the stories you layer onto them. So next time time stalls, remember, the wait isn't empty. It's the blank canvas where your patience paints its masterpiece. Think about the last time you stood before a crowd, maybe to give a toast at a wedding or present in a meeting. That dry mouth, the trembling hands, the voice that cracks under invisible weight. Now imagine Seneca watching from the back row, nodding knowingly. He'd recognize that terror instantly, not as a flaw, but as an invitation to practice courage. In his letter on the terrors of death, he flips the script on fear itself. Death terrifies us, yet how many have suffered worse by fearing it? The Stoics didn't avoid dread, they dissected it, rehearsed it until its fangs dulled. Epictetus, who taught students trembling before Roman elites, framed it bluntly. It's not the thing itself that frightens us, but our judgment about it. Picture a musician terrified of hitting a wrong note. The fear isn't in the note, it's in the story they've attached to it. I'll be humiliated, they'll think I'm a fraud. Stoics called this pre-rehearsal, a mentally walking through worst-case scenarios to expose their emptiness. What if you bomb the speech? You'll survive. What if people laugh? Their opinions don't define you. Like a firefighter training in smoke-filled rooms, they inoculated themselves against panic by sitting with discomfort until it lost its sting. Modern psychology confirms this ancient hack. Exposure therapy, the gold standard for phobias, mirrors Stoic practice, gradually facing fears in safe doses. Start small. If public speaking petrifies you, begin by voicing an opinion in a team meeting. If rejection scares you, practice asking for minor favors. Each time you tolerate the discomfort, you rewrite your brain's alarm system. Seneca's version was even more visceral. He'd sleep on hard floors, wear thin cloaks in winter, not to punish himself, but to remember this is survivable. Comfort had made his students fragile. Deliberate discomfort made them fearless. Now, consider your own life. What's the quiet fear that whispers don't when opportunity knocks? Is it the dread of aging that keeps you from celebrating birthdays? The terror of failure that stops you from launching that project? Epictetus offers a liberating question. What's the worst that could happen, and would it really be so bad? Death itself, the Stoics argued, is just nature's recycling program. If you can make peace with mortality, smaller fears become laughable. Tonight, try this exercise. Write down one fear, not abstract failure, but something concrete like asking for a raise or going to the dentist. Now vividly imagine the worst possible outcome. Feel it fully. Then ask, could I endure this? You'll often find the answer is yes, and with that realization, the monster under the bed shrinks to mouse size. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the discovery that fear's bark has always been worse than its bite. Step into any crowded cafe today, and you'll hear it. A symphony of overlapping voices, half-listened to stories, and phones buzzing with notifications. Everyone seems to be talking, but how much is truly being said? Epictetus, the Stoic teacher who trained students in the art of living, would have walked through that noise with a wry smile. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, he'd remind us, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. This wasn't just advice for polite conversation. It was a radical stance in a world obsessed with rhetoric where speech was power. The Stoics flipped that script. Real power, they argued, lives in knowing when silence serves you better than sound. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire from the chaos of battlefields and political intrigue, wrote in his private journal, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" He wasn't just questioning tasks, he was auditing his own words. Imagine applying that filter today. That meeting where everyone's talking in circles to prove their worth. That group chat where messages pile up like unread newspapers. What if, instead of adding to the noise, you became the person who speaks only when it moves the needle? Not out of shyness, but strategy, because every unnecessary word is energy stolen from the ones that matter. Here's the modern paradox. We've never had more ways to communicate, yet genuine understanding feels scarcer than ever. Social media rewards hot takes, not deep reflection. Work culture conflates verbosity with competence. Even friendships sometimes drown in small talk because we've forgotten how to be comfortably quiet together. The Stoic antidote, a practice Epictetus called prosoch, attentiveness to the quality of your silence. Try this for 1 hour today. Speak only when absolutely essential. Not as a vow of muteness, but as a spotlight on your habits. Notice how often you're tempted to chime in just to be heard, or how quickly discomfort with quiet drives you to fill it with chatter. Now think back to your last conversation. Did you listen to understand or just to reply? That pause between sentences, did you lean into it or rush to plug it with your next thought? Silence, the Stoics knew, isn't empty. It's the fertile ground where reflection grows. When Seneca advised his friend Lucilius to let your speech be seasoned with silence, he wasn't advocating for shyness. He was offering a tool. The space between words is where we catch our mental breath, where we separate reaction from response. So tonight, try this. Sit with someone you care about, no phones, no agenda, and let the quiet stretch. Not awkwardly, but intentionally. Watch how stillness can say more than 1,000 words, because sometimes the most stoic thing you can do isn't to voice your truth, but to create the space where truth can finally be heard. Remember that decade-long celebrity feud everyone followed like a soap opera. The snarky interviews, the subtweets, the way both stars seemed trapped in a loop of mutual resentment long after fans stopped caring. Seneca would have watched this spectacle with a sad smile. In On Tranquility, he wrote, "Holding onto anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, a truth as piercing today as it was in Nero's Rome." Those two celebrities weren't just fighting each other, they were shackling themselves to the past, mistaking grudges for strength when they were really prisons of their own making. Consider the physics of resentment. Every minute spent replaying an old betrayal is a minute stolen from your present joy. Like carrying a rotting apple in your pocket, the stench eventually seeps into everything. Modern research confirms Seneca's insight. Chronic anger spikes cortisol, weakens immunity, and even accelerates cellular aging. The Stoic remedy wasn't forced forgiveness, it was cold-eyed pragmatism. As Marcus Aurelius noted in his journal, the best revenge is to not be like your enemy. Why hand them rent-free space in your mind when you could evict them and redecorate? Here's where ancient wisdom meets modern therapy. Try this ritual. Write a raw, unfiltered letter to whoever wronged you. Pour out every bitter thought. Then here's the Stoic twist: burn it. Watch as flames turn your grievances to smoke. This isn't about absolving the other person, it's about reclaiming your sovereignty. Seneca described this as cutting the cord to old wounds, a surgical act of self-liberation. The ash left behind, that's the fertilizer for new growth. Now bring this home. Picture a resentment you've nursed, maybe a friend's betrayal, a parent's harsh words, a colleague's sabotage. Ask yourself, what's the story I've been telling about this? Now rewrite it with a Stoic editor. Not "they ruined me, but they taught me." Not "I'll never forgive, but I choose to outgrow." This isn't spiritual bypassing, it's strategic detachment. Like unclenching a fist you didn't realize was cramping, the relief comes not from the other person changing, but from you finally letting go. Tonight, light a candle not for them, but for you. Watch the wax melt and ask, what old hurt have I mistaken for part of myself? Then blow it out, and with it, release what no longer serves you. Because tranquility isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of freedom. And that's a flame no one can extinguish but you. You might think Stoics were stone-faced killjoys, all grim discipline and suppressed feelings, but crack open Seneca's letters and you'll find a man who writes ecstatically about the sparkling frost on morning grapes and the thrill of friendship's first hello. His secret: joy wasn't accidental, it was a muscle he flexed daily. While modern culture treats happiness like a lottery win, random, fleeting, dependent on external luck, the Stoics saw it as the product of disciplined attention. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly: when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Not exactly the words of a joyless ascetic, is it? This is Stoic joy in action, not the absence of sorrow, but the active cultivation of wonder. Picture Seneca pausing mid-walk to marvel at how sunlight filters through leaves, a practice modern science now calls awe walks, proven to lower stress hormones. Or Epictetus, who found laughter in adversity, joking that exile was just a change of address. Their joy wasn't naive, it was defiant. While others obsessed over acquiring more, Stoics derived delight from truly seeing what they already had. Imagine applying that lens today, that first sip of coffee, a miniature festival for the senses, your child's chaotic doodle, a masterpiece of spontaneity. The way your dog's ears flop when they run, pure comedy gold. Here's where modern mindfulness and ancient wisdom collide. Research shows gratitude journaling rewires the brain for positivity, but Stoics were doing this 2 millennia ago with sharper focus. Try their 3 small joys practice tonight. Not grand milestones like promotions or vacations, but the overlooked textures of daily life, the satisfying crunch of fresh bread, the way your sheets smell after laundry, the absurdity of your cat's failed attempt to jump on the fridge. Marcus Aurelius kept lists like this, reminding himself to take joyful note of the world's theater, from the diligence of ants to the way old men still blush when complimented. So here's your challenge before bed. Ask yourself Seneca's favorite question: what mundane moment delighted me today? Maybe it was the barrister remembering your order, or the way rain sounded on your umbrella. Write it down without embellishment. Over time, you'll notice something revolutionary. Joy isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose to notice, like a sculptor revealing the statue hidden in marble. The Stoics didn't avoid pleasure, they distilled it to its essence, free from dependence on circumstance. Because when you train yourself to spot wonder in the ordinary, you'll never live a day without it. Imagine walking through a cemetery, pausing at a weathered tombstone with your name on it. What would the epitaph say? Here lies someone who worried endlessly about emails. Or here rests one who lived with purpose, loved deeply, and left the world brighter. That jarring exercise, writing your own epitaph, is the Stoic practice of memento mori in action. Far from being morbid, this confrontation with mortality was the Stoics' secret weapon for clarity. Seneca put it bluntly: let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Think of death not as a distant event, but as the lens that brings life into sharp focus. The Romans kept skulls on their banquet tables, not to kill the mood, but to heighten it. Every clink of wine glasses carried an unspoken toast. This could be our last. Let's make it count. Modern psychology validates this ancient hack. Studies show that people who reflect regularly on their mortality, not in terror, but in honesty, make bolder choices, waste less time on trivial grievances, and invest more in meaningful relationships. Here's where Stoicism flips the script on conventional wisdom. While modern culture tiptoes around death with euphemisms and avoidance, the Stoics leaned in. Marcus Aurelius started each morning with this reminder: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say, not to incite panic, but to distill intention. That project you've been delaying, the grudge you've been nursing, the love you've been too busy to express, mortality whispers, now's the time. Try this exercise today. Draft 2 versions of your epitaph, one reflecting how you're living now, and one capturing the life you aspire to. The gap between them isn't a criticism, it's a compass. Then take it further. Write a personal mission statement in 20 words or fewer. Not a to-do list, but a why I am here declaration. Seneca's might have read, to think deeply, love fiercely, and leave wisdom as my echo. Yours could be about creating, healing, teaching, whatever makes your heart pound with quiet certainty. Now, the ultimate litmus test. As you turn off the lights tonight, ask Seneca's question: If today were my last, would I be content? Not did I check every box, but did I live in alignment with what matters? The answer isn't meant to shame you, it's meant to wake you, because the tombstone exercise isn't really about death. It's about using life's one non-renewable resource, time, with the reverence it deserves. The Stoics didn't stare at skulls to depress themselves. They did it to remember. Awareness of endings is what makes beginnings meaningful. So keep your epitaph draft where you'll see it, not as a morbid reminder, but as a daily nudge. Let it sharpen your choices, deepen your conversations, and silence the noise that doesn't matter. After all, legacy isn't what's carved on stone. It's what's etched in the lives you touch and the purpose you refuse to postpone. Think about the last email you sent, how quickly you typed it, how little you reread it before hitting send. Now imagine unrolling a parchment, dipping a quill in ink, and composing words meant to last centuries. That's the difference between modern communication and Stoic letters. Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius didn't dash off quick replies. They crafted missives designed to fortify the soul. Their letters weren't just updates. They were lifelines threaded with honesty, reflection, and unwavering encouragement. And here's the good news: you don't need a wax seal or a scroll to write like a Stoic. You just need to reclaim the art of deliberate, meaningful words. Start with honesty, the kind that stings but heals. The Stoics didn't sugarcoat. When Seneca wrote to Lucilius about confronting mortality, he didn't soften the blow. You're afraid of death. But how can you be sure life is any better? That brutal clarity wasn't cruelty, it was compassion in its purest form. Try this: write a letter to your past self at their lowest moment. Not with vague platitudes, but with the unvarnished truth they needed to hear. You're not stuck, you're scared, and fear is a terrible compass. Next, reflection, the Stoic superpower. Marcus Aurelius's meditations began as private notes, a nightly ritual of asking, where did I stumble? Where did I rise? Your turn. Grab any notebook and address it to future me. Describe today's challenges as if they're already behind you. Remember how the job rejection felt like the end. It was the redirection you didn't see coming. Epictetus nailed it. We must not believe the crowd when they say only the educated can be wise. Wisdom grows in the soil of honest self-examination. Now, encouragement, not empty cheerleading, but the kind that roots itself in reality. When Seneca consoled Marcia on her son's death, he didn't say, "Time heals all wounds." He said, "Grief is love's stubborn echo." That's the template. Acknowledge the pain, then light a path forward. Write to a friend struggling with anxiety. The waves feel endless because you're in them. Step back, you'll see they break on shores you can't yet glimpse. Here's your challenge. Tonight, set aside 10 minutes. Write one letter to your past self, future self, or someone you care about. Use this framework. 1. Name the storm. I see you drowning in what-ifs. 2. Anchor in truth. The opinions you fear are written on water. 3. Chart the course. Breathe. Then take the next right step. Fold it, seal it, tuck it away, or send it, because the real magic of Stoic letters isn't in the words. It's in the act of slowing down long enough to hear your own wisdom whisper back. So here we stand, 2,000 years after Seneca penned his letters, discovering the same truths that calmed Roman souls still mend modern hearts. The real magic of Stoic letters isn't in their age, it's in their alchemy. They take the raw materials of our daily chaos, the frustrations, the fears, the unexpected blows, and teach us to forge something unbreakable from them. Think of the practices we've explored: journaling like Marcus Aurelius, turning obstacles into fuel like Epictetus, or embracing fate like Musonius, Rufus. These aren't relics, they're tools, and just like a well-worn quill, they grow sharper with use. Consider how far we've come, that traffic jam that used to ruin your morning. Now it's a chance to practice patience, the criticism that once crushed you, an invitation to refine your craft. Even grief, that heaviest of emotions, becomes a testament to love's enduring shape. This is the Stoic shift, not denying life's storms, but learning to dance in the rain. Seneca put it best in his final letter to Lucilius: "No man was ever wise by chance." Wisdom isn't a lightning strike, it's the slow, steady kindling of daily practice. Your challenge now is simple but profound. Don't try to overhaul your life overnight. Pick one technique, just one, and let it root. Maybe tonight you'll write 3 lines in a journal about what stirred your peace today. Tomorrow, when frustration flares, you might pause to ask, what's my role in this story? Small steps, yes, but as the Stoics knew well, the longest journey begins with a single, intentional breath. Before you go, let's leave with Seneca's parting gift. As long as you live, keep learning how to live. This isn't goodbye, it's an invitation. An invitation to keep the conversation alive in your journals, your choices, your quiet moments of reflection. The Stoic path doesn't end here, it unfurls before you, waiting for your footprints. If this resonated with you, join us for more journeys into ancient wisdom. Hit subscribe and let's keep growing together. Because the art of living isn't mastered in a day, a video, or even a lifetime. But every letter written, every obstacle reframed, every mindful breath. That's the ink with which you'll write your own masterpiece.